Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's silliest music nerd, and it's time for some discourse. Choo-choo! Let's all hop on the discourse train. Chugga 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 chugga. I'm the conductor of the discourse train. Let's talk about some recent comments made by wonderful and pioneering pop artist Miss Charli XCX, who can be seen on Twitter reacting to a public statement from music writer Laura Snapes, who has worked for a myriad of different very important and significant outlets over the years. And I guess recently she stated that she was not happy with her take on the 2016 review of Charli XCX's Vroom Vroom. Now, I want to be explicit here and say the point of this video is not to attack or dogpile on Laura in any way. I happen to think that reviews are snapshots in time of one's opinion or perspective on a certain song or piece of art. Opinions are subject to change and heavily based on things like experience and knowledge at the time. Lord knows, over the course of recording thousands and thousands of reviews on this channel and my main channel, I have changed my opinion a couple of times. And, you know, again, given how much output I have, I think I'm entitled to a few opinion changes, okay? So again, Laura, Vroom Vroom, changed opinion, entitled to that, and Charli has some thoughts. This is why reviews are kind of silly in my opinion. If the sway of culture and popular opinion is the thing that's forcing a journalist to reconsider their review with hindsight, then what's the point of even reviewing in the first place? There are a couple of tweets past this one, but first I want to address the statement made here before I kind of, give a whole spiel on all of it. Look, given my work and my background, I'm going to, stand up for the concept of reviewing in general and say that, look, reviews, even though often they may sort of take just kind of like a stance on kind of contextualizing and commenting on a certain culture that surrounds a piece of art, that's not all that a review has to be or could be. It could be more than that. And look, I don't think reviews should exist purely in a technical or a compositional vacuum where they're not addressing the culture or the world that surrounds that piece of music. I think that would be silly. But often when I run across reviews on some major platforms out there, many of them do sort of seem to be lacking in a lot of commentary on the quality of the music, the performance, and a host of other things. And again, while I think culture and context is important, I think reviews should primarily be focused on the actual quality of the art at the end of the day. I'm not saying that's the only way to review or the most perfect way to review, because in focusing on that, which I feel like I have a natural tendency to do, sometimes I do kind of fail to weigh appropriately the deeper meaning or, emotional significance of a piece of work. Maybe I'm more hung up on the fact that, I don't know, the mix sucks or something like that. So, I mean, it's not a flawless approach. It's not fail-safe. Conversely, if you allow, as Charli is kind of saying here, culture and public opinion to sway everything that you're stating and throwing out there, you're due to just kind of like alter your opinion and perspective of the moment the winds shift, which Charli is correct about. If that's all it takes for you to change your opinion on something, then what was the point in your opinion in the first place? While yes, there are some key albums I have changed my opinion on over the years, more often than not, I am sticking by the reviews and the scores that I have delivered since my time on YouTube that have continually gotten me like hate and flack and a lot of negativity. And you know what? I have like 95% no regrets. Vroom Vroom was my EP of the year when it dropped, by the way. Part of the reason I loved that EP so much is not only did I think the songs were genuinely fun, it was like, creative and groundbreaking banger after creative groundbreaking banger, but I thought the EP was like a really interesting and creative shift aesthetically for Charli at the time, and reminds me of, that quote from The Critic and Ratatouille, how it should, at least in some sense, be the job of the critic to support things that are new, that are experimental, that are adventurous, that naturally, when thrown in front of a crowd of people who are hive-minded and only exposed to a very limited, narrow view of sounds and artistic concepts, most likely they're going to hate it. They're going to shit on it. They may need someone to advocate for it in order to kind of like turn them around on it and actually be open to what an EP like Vroom Vroom is delivering. As this review shows, not everybody took to it at the time. And when you compare that EP to the stuff Charlie was immediately making up until that point, it's kind of a night and day difference. While yes, I have my fair share of reviews out there that are negative in response to an artist doing something different, taking a risk, because not every risk or experiment or attempt to try something new pans out. Generally speaking, I feel like we should do our best to at least give records like that the old college try. New Avenged Sevenfold album, for example. I hate that record. I think it is absolutely awful, but I admire the band for trying what they did on the album. Charlie also says in this handful of tweets, but I will say, of course, I felt hurt when Vroom Vroom got a 4. Everyone says they don't care, and that's lies. So thank you, Laura, for saying this. I really do appreciate it. Nice to see, appreciation from Charlie on that. While Charlie has been vocal in the past about people's thoughts on her music, even going as far as to wear a shirt saying that they don't build statues for critics. She's been vocal about the criticism of her music in the past, and even though I can say personally, my thoughts on her stuff has really ranged over the years. Like, I have not cared for her early stuff. Really love that hyper pop and sort of that pandemic quarantine era, and was not really crazy about Crash. And over the course of that time, what responses I have gotten from Charlie have been mostly either positive or just like kind of understanding in terms of what I do, what she does, and so on and so forth. So I think it's bold and interesting of Charlie to be open and upfront about these feelings, because more often than not, artists are pretty quiet about reviews generally, or when they are vocal about them, it does tend to be very negative, sometimes aggressive, and coming from a very hurt place. I understand why, because as the artist, you don't want to kind of platform or validate a review or a reviewer who may sort of turn around at some point and not enjoy your next work. Unfortunately, audiences sometimes can be pretty fickle. Even when you are making good art, it feels like a lot of the time the power in your success is mostly based in just kind of making sure that the collective of fans that you have continue to be in love with what you do and indoctrinated in some way, and sort of seeing them potentially exposed to a bunch of negative opinions of what you do, I'm sure can feel kind of scary. Will it potentially pose a threat to your success and what you do if everyone kind of slowly or suddenly comes to the realization, I actually don't like this. This is bad. This review kind of convinced me so. Which, let me say explicitly, it is never my intention or my goal to sort of convince everyone to not like things that they like. I would hope at the end of the day, what I'm doing with any work that I put out is give people pause to think about why it is they like what they do, or why it is they dislike certain things as well. If you watch or listen to a review I've done of a Machine Gun Kelly album, and in response to that, in your head, you're thinking well, you didn't really bring up X, Y, or Z, and those are my favorite things about the album, and the A, B, and C things that you said are actually positives for me for these reasons. To me, that's a sensible, good, and healthy reaction to a review. It's perfectly okay to disagree with me and enjoy things that I don't. Getting everyone to enjoy everything I enjoy is not the point of this. And even though I do my best at the end of the day to not make any of the reviews that I put out, personal in terms of a takedown or an attack on the artist specifically, still the artist is putting themselves into the album in some way, shape, or form. And, I understand why a negative review of a record may feel in a way, a personal attack, because the record feels like a representation of you on some level. Finally, Charlie ties it up with, I think sometimes reviews are more about the culture or scene that surrounds an artist or the genre of music someone makes rather than the work itself. And it sort of produces this nervousness to be on the wrong side of culture, or a fear to not be delivering the known cool take. Now, despite where this tweet ends, I imagine Charlie is talking more about just creating art generally as opposed to putting out opinions that people may or may not agree with. And I don't think the phenomenon of pressure she's discussing here is specific to reviews per se. However, there is an unfortunate something to what she's getting at here, and that's this, kind of internal fear within artists to keep up with the Joneses or the trends, to be either ahead of or involved with the thing that's going on at the time that is worth being a part of. I think one of the most recent instances of this, being a hyper pop or maybe like a lot of this rage music in hip hop and trap right now. While some good releases here and there do come out of that ambulance chasing, the vast majority of like what ends up dropping as, people are kind of like reacting to this very popular vibe or wave or whatever, a lot of it's mid. A lot of it is really just a capitalistic reaction to a commercial demand, and that's it. A lot of the time in the case of art, I just don't really feel like that is a very good guiding principle. Look, sometimes the culture can be wrong. There are loads of artists and albums and singles that over the decades popular music has existed that the culture has celebrated or put on a pedestal, be it underground or mainstream culture. And yeah, it was mid. It wasn't that good. It sucked. It didn't age that well, and maybe it wasn't even really all that good at the time. And I feel like critics and music fans should be a bit more discerning and not let waves of popularity, completely decide whether or not something appeals to them. Because as Charlie was saying here in the first tweet, it kind of cheapens the whole process of giving an opinion in the first place. But yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much to Charlie XCX for putting these thoughts out there. I appreciate them. They're on point. They're cool. You guys are the best. Over here next to my head is another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Charlie XCX, forever.